Previously, I played a game of Imperator Rome where I created a state of Germany with a capital in Geisenheim in the ancient era. And just now I'd played a game of Victoria 3 where I created a state of Germany with the capital in Vienna in the sort of Industrial Revolution era. This is quite a strange game. I hadn't planned on recording it, but I've had a few saves, so I'll talk you through it here. I started off in playing as Austria just as a chill game, intending just to do the Habsburg Resurgence achievement. So that would mean that I'd need to take Silesia here, Schlesien, and reduce the rank of Prussia from major power to a minor power, which is fairly easy to do if you simply release a few states from them, capture a few states, beat them up a little bit. It should be fairly straightforward. I was looking forward to a rather chill game. But I did sort of think, well, we could maybe possibly form Germany here, which I hadn't done up to that point in Victoria 3. So, we'll start by going for nationalism, which is required. You sort of have to do some plays to try and form Germany. You have to create the German national identity, that sort of thing. So that was possibly on my radar, although of course the achievement I really was going for requires you to, I believe, stay as Austria and keep Prussia around as such. So that means not actually forming Germany until then. I decided to throw an interest down here in Lorenzo Marquez, as usual, to go to Africa as well. Rather stupidly, I started enacting National Guard, which didn't actually work out that well. I think the best thing to do actually for Austria objectively is you start off with already very expensive grain, and so if you simply put your market policy to encourage exports, you can get the Corn Laws event to fire quite easily, quite soon, which is objectively probably the best thing to do. And if you watch other YouTubers, I'm sure you'll see that in Victoria 3. So, as I say, I started off with a chill game, getting a few construction sectors and getting a bit of a navy going, and possibly going for Corn Laws down the road at some point. A year or so after starting, having gotten Lorenzo Marquez, I decided to expand into Hamburg, actually annex Hamburg, in order to get a front with Denmark and free Schleswig and Holstein eventually. So we'll start a play. I am eventually going to go to try and get an alliance with Russia as well, for once we are ready to attack Prussia. And with a simple landing, this battle should be rather easy. With the annexation of Hamburg complete, I'm able to, firstly, we'll form an alliance with Russia, and secondly, we can launch now a play with Denmark to liberate Schleswig and Holstein. Eventually, we will sway in Russia here as well, and we might as well take some reparations. And with a front, it should be really rather straightforward to free them. I know you don't have to have that, but as I say, this was a chill game, so that's what I ended up deciding to do. With Schleswig and Holstein liberated, I was ready to try and go and launch a leadership play against Prussia. So have a war. And remember, at this stage, we're doing this to sort of get some supporters on our side within Germany without actually looking to form Germany yet, as I mentioned, but we do want to take Silesia as part of this, so we can certainly force a play, and we can mobilize all our vast armies and numbers of conscripts, and with everything mobilized and conscripted up, it should actually be relatively straightforward to beat Prussia here in this quite simple war. So we will sway in Russia with a cool ally, and we will add the war goal of conquering Silesia, because That's of course what we're going for. Initially, I'm going to defend this very large front with them. I'll let Russia perhaps push, but eventually we will be able to push in as well once we've sort of defeated Prussia, at least initially. We'll probably mobilize this and try to land them as well. In the meantime, I've soundly given up trying to pass National Guard, and I've gone for laissez-faire by having the Corn Laws and having a leader of the aristocracy with the market liberal agenda, which is actually probably the best idea early on to really juice up your economy. So there we're going. We actually have a front we need to fill in over here. And what's going to happen, while it will be a little bit tricky to start off with, what's going to happen is that many of these little minor powers in northern Germany will quite quickly begin to capitulate to us. We can also send in a landing here in Pomerania just to distract people. As you can see, we're starting to capitulate out the minor powers, which will make our lives easier, and we're ready to go on the attack now. This is by no means an amazing gamesmanship, but it's good enough to beat this confederation and to achieve our war goals, which again are to take Silesia and to become the only unification candidate, stop Prussia from being able to unify into the North German Federation or anything like that. And this will go quite easily. Pretty soon, Prussia is ready to give in to our demands, and so we have got Silesia. We've knocked them down a peg a little bit, stopped them from being able to reunify, and so my initial goal, at least for this run, was soon to be met. We will probably need another war where we will free or liberate a bunch of their states to really cut them down to size. But we're certainly, in terms of the Habsburg resurgence achievement, we're certainly getting there. So at this point, I started thinking, well, maybe let's get a little bit more ambitious. And there's an achievement called Huge Ego Sorry, where what we'll need to do is we will need to get the philosopher Max Stirner to become leader of our country. Seems quite a challenge. Not only that, we will need to form Germany. We probably could do that quite easily here, but getting Max Stirner, who's a nihilist, a Hegelian philosopher, is quite tricky. But there's a few things you need to do. Once we pass laissez-faire, we're going to have to enact state religion, and we're going to need to get, by 1944 or soon after 1944, we're going to have to research realism. So we'll start on that now, so that in about 3 years, it's going to be 1944, and the realism technology will be finished. In the meantime, we need to get through laissez-faire and then state religion. We've also become a lot bigger. We've annexed these southern states because we are now the German leaders, which will make fighting Prussia subsequently even easier. But for now, let's focus on making these political changes. So I have indeed been able to, by making use of the Catholic Church interest group, I was indeed able to pass the state religion quite easily. And then I began work on getting free trade. That's just a bit of to improve our economy. But so that now we've got the requirement, most of the requirements. We've got autocracy and state religion, and we are working on getting realism by sometime in 1944 in order to have Max Stirner spawn as an agitator. And indeed, in 1945, Stirner has appeared. In order to get to become a leader, we will need to grant him leadership of the intelligentsia, and we're going to have to make sure that he is pressuring them. So the intelligentsia here, we can slot them into government, of course, but they're being pressured by these movements. If we eventually suppress this traditionalist movement, then we can get the Stirner's nihilist movement to pressure them, and eventually then we can promote him to leadership of the intelligentsia. By 1847, that's exactly what I had done. I had promoted Stirner. He is now leader of the intelligentsia, and we will eventually want to get him into power. To do that, first we will need to make some political reforms. We'll want to go for census suffrage here and try and pass that. That'll give us enough political power to be able to change from a monarchy to get Stirner in power. At this stage, the truce I had with Prussia expired, so I decided to cut them apart a little bit. If we free here Westphalia, and if we free Pomerania, and perhaps take their little state here as well. If we transfer Hohenzollern, then it should be relatively straightforward. And this time, Prussia is much weaker. They only have 121 battalions total, including conscripts. So this should be a rather easier war to fight. Even though Netherlands will side with Prussia, we can get Russia on our side again, and that should greatly ease our battle here. And in the meantime, we're going to try and go for census suffrage. There may be some secessionist movements, but that's not a huge problem. And we can, of course, land Prussia again just to try and encourage them to give up easily. The war at this time is going much more rapidly, and we're occupying our opponents very easily. With the war won, we can have a look and we see that Prussia is now well below the threshold for being a great power. So this will complete the Habsburg resurgence achievement. That's fine. We just need to wait a year. But in the meantime, I was getting quite excited, and I really need to try and push ahead and get Max Stirner to become our leader. Having passed census suffrage and had an election, I wanted to start to pass presidential republic. Now what's going to happen here is that we have a party, the Progressive Club, with the intelligentsia, with Stirner, and the petite bourgeoisie. And what we're going to need to make sure that the intelligentsia are just slightly ahead of the petite bourgeoisie here. So if we promote some generals or create some assign generals from the intelligentsia, that should handily put them ahead. And so once we pass a presidential republic, which is quite unlikely at this stage, but if we get some lucky rolls and try and bolster that somewhat, then eventually, and we've just had an election, so if we put the Progressive Club in power, you'll see what I mean. We now have in the intelligentsia the second largest here in the ruling party. If we just boost them a bit more and pass presidential republic, for which we now have a much larger chance. So for example, we can give Stirner a bit more popularity, that'll help. And if we just promote, if we find some generals that we have that are from the intelligentsia, that will help us hopefully quite handily. So here we'll promote our intelligentsia general all the way to Field Marshal, and we'll see if we can get any more as we go. That should hopefully boost, as you can see, Stirner's party a little bit more. So once Presidential Republic is passed, Stirner should be in power. And indeed, this is exactly what happened. We had a much nicer flag now, and indeed, our head of state is Max Stirner of the intelligentsia. And at this stage, I was getting quite excited. I thought this might just work. He is a leader. He is our leader now. The problem being that for the huge ego achievement, we will need to also form Germany. We are just tantalizingly close. We need to control 3 more states in Germany. So we need to start boosting relations, bankrolling as many of these little minor powers here as we can, these little German states. But given that this would take quite a while to boost and bankroll them, I decided, and since I also had a revolution from the royalists, I decided, why don't we roll us back to the monarchy? With the support of this revolutionary movement, we should be able to pass a monarchy and have Max crowned as Kaiser. We have some revolts here, but they should be easy to put down. And we should just concentrate on, firstly, improving relations as much as we can, bankrolling all these little states, or at least the ones that aren't yet friendly enough to us, and just try to get 23 state regions over the line. So that will be Mecklenburg. We'll need to get Mecklenburg-Strelitz here. We are going to try and get Westphalia, Lippe, and Schaumburg-Lippe. And perhaps we can get Saxony as well with a Saxe-Gottorp. A number of years later, we are getting much closer to enacting monarchy, which will... the problem we have, of course, is that once we have an election, Max Stirner will be voted out as president. So we need to get this monarchy passed as soon as we can in order to give us enough time to form Germany. We are now just 1 state short. So once we get Schaumburg-Lippe here, we'll be able to form Germany. We'll have control again over Westphalia, and that will be just enough to form Germany as required. Just in the nick of time, before the election is due to finish, we pass monarchy and we make our Max Stirner into a Kaiser. This gives him a son who is going to be his heir apparent. Funnily enough, given the real-life ideology and philosophy of Stirner, his son is going to join the Catholic Church, a bit of a revolt against your parents type of deal. But there we go. We've got an Archduke Ludwig Stirner as our heir and successor, and for the moment, Stirner is safe as leader of Austria. All that's required now is for our relations with Schaumburg-Lippe to get high enough. And with relations with Schaumburg-Lippe reaching friendly, we can now push the button and form Germany. And all hail Kaiser Max Stirner with his Catholic son to rule on as his heir. And there we go. We now have a huge ego. Indeed, we also have the freedom of trade, incidentally, but there we are. We are now Germany with Stirner, with a capital and starting capital in Vienna. This Germany is Catholic. If we formed it with Prussia, it would be Protestant, and we have North German and South German cultures. We do have a bit of a revolution here, but hopefully we can suppress it enough that it decays away. So this was quite a fun run, which, as I say, I really wanted to share with you. So thank you for watching.